You're going to love our guest speaker. She's an amazing person. She makes me cry. But before we introduce her, I want her to have, and there's more people. There's 55 signed up, so there's more people coming. So I'm going to pass this around and try to look at Perry when you say who you are, and tell who you love with Down syndrome and share something fun about you guys. But tell what city you're from so people can make connections, like, oh, I live in Phoenix too, or you drove from like Peoria?
It's still Phoenix.
Phoenix?
Yeah.
But it feels really far. So
in the rain it feels far.
Where did she go? She came from Prescott.
Wow.
So I see we have to like give her extra chocolate or something. So anyway, thank you so much for coming. You're going to love this presentation. And people don't mean to be rude coming in while you're presenting, but they're coming. So, all right, I love this family, so let's have them start. I look back so Perry can see how cute you are.
Hello, my name is Mike McTagg, and this is my wife Sarah, and we have a son named Riken. He's 8 years old. We live in Gilbert, and we have a daughter, Riley, and she is 12 years old.
They're pretty cute, huh?
Yes, they are.
Good kids. I love it. And Mom's going to talk to you, even though she's shy.
Projecting, it's just going.
Sarah, Gilbert, Riken, 8 years old. Same thing.
And
Riley.
what's the best thing about me being married to this amazing guy?
He's with me 50%, 50-50 on everything.
Wow.
Or more on everything.
Wow.
So
Okay, good job, Dad. Good job.
he's with me.
He carries the load.
Yep.
I love it. Thank you. All right, Polly.
Okay, my name is Polly Standiford. I live in Gilbert. I work with Jenna and Teresa.
And talk loud, even though it's on a mic, so they can hear
And
you.
our office now is in Mesa. And I love about 5,500 families that are in the database that I work with constantly. So I love working with your families and being a part of sharing.
You have to, yeah.
I don't like this part. I'm Tracy Hancock. I have 5 kids. Our 4th child has Down syndrome. She is now 15, and she's just loving high school.
She's amazing. And tell what you do for us and what you're studying.
What am I doing?
I
I came to help today.
Doing great.
I'm in ASU in a master's program, Family and Human Development, and so Jenna is going to let me do my field work with her, like an internship in October. So, kind of hanging out early.
Yes, good thing.
And I'm Teresa Adair, and I have been working with sharing for about 16 years. And just like Polly, I love everybody that I work with, and I think a kid with Down syndrome is absolutely amazing and super cute.
Perfect. Do you want to tell who you are? And look over there at that cute guy and say hello.
The camera.
To the camera.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Morris. I live in Arizona, and
I
work at Chuck E. Cheese, and I'm here to lose weight.
Awesome. That's why I'm here too.
I'm here.
How old are you, honey?
I'm 41.
41. Look how darling she is. Oh my gosh. I met her. I ran into them, and you know how our children are like magnets. I saw them and I had to go over and say hello, and you were so nice to me, as were your parents. So thank you. Okay.
I'm Penny Morris, and we live in East Mesa, and Rebecca's our daughter, and she is at Chuck E. Cheese on Power Road on Saturday and Sunday mornings, if you can believe mornings for pizza. But if you're ever out that way, check her out. She's there working. She never misses a day.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Turn it over.
Well, we want him to talk too.
Should he turn it over?
Well, I just think
Ready to go, just talk
it's
right
good.
into it.
Just talk.
Yeah, good to go.
Hi, I'm Dean, and you met the two that I'm associated with, so my job is to take care of whatever needs to be done when she can't handle it. So like this morning, Becky and I had breakfast together, and I just love sharing or spending time with her. So I get, now that I'm retired and don't have a real job to get in the way, I get to spend a lot more time with her, and I really like that.
Here, can I take it? I'm going to have this cute family share. And Dylene is a dear friend of mine, but she's so cute. Like, what do I have to say? Just tell them something wonderful about you.
Hi, Dylene McClellan. I'm from Peoria, Arizona, and this is Catherine. Catherine, say hi.
Hi.
Hi. Catherine, look over at that cute guy and say, hey, how you doing?
She's my wonderful child. We're grateful for her. Thank you.
She is wonderful. Catherine, do you want to tell him anything? Where do you go to school?
Case.
You do?
Woman Case.
Okay, and she's like, please don't embarrass me. She's sort of like my kids, like, thank you so much, so much. Now we're going to go over there, but we got some cute kids here. Tell who you are and who you love.
I love all of you. My name is Lee Collins. This is Diana, and this is our baby Kenzie that we love very much.
I love it. And, tell
And
what
3 children at home that didn't get to join
Yeah.
us. That we also love. Here, since you love more.
What do you want me to tell?
Tell them something, tell them who you love and tell about you and tell me something. How'd you get this cute little baby?
Is this the microphone right here? So we adopted Kenzie from Ukraine 10 months ago. So we have 3 biological typical children, and just had a heart for Down syndrome and wanted to help save an orphan. So off we went. So yeah, here she is, and she's turning 2 next month. So yeah,
And
thank
Dad,
you.
Take the mic for a minute and tell what else. They're healthy. They hate them. They eat good. They exercise. Tell a little bit about the program that you like to do. That you exercise.
Oh, thank you. So I created a program called Up Fit and Fun, and it's an online fitness program for teens and adults with Down syndrome, so that they can work out online, follow a workout routine with me online anywhere in the world, in case they don't have programs accessible to them locally. So that's been a lot of fun.
I love it. You know, it's so fun. They came into the office to tell us about some things, but they just seem really adorable. And later they said, we didn't want to tell you, but we were thinking of adopting a baby. It's when they did, we just all went crazy. And when she wakes up, oh my gosh, she's the cutest little thing. Perry, before the night's over, you have to get some pictures. Okay, we have another cute family over here. They always love when I embarrass them publicly. No, tell who you love and tell what you'd like to learn. Each one has to take a turn. There it is, like,
I know I should be good with this, but my name is Mary Malinowski, and this is my husband Dave, and we have a 10-year-old daughter with Down syndrome. So I should be a pro at this by now, but I'm never going to be good at this. And
where do you live?
Oh, and we live in Mesa, and she goes to a private school. So yeah.
Okay, Dad, tell us something that you love.
I'm Dave Malinowski. I love that Abby is our healthiest eater in the house, and she just recently, we've kind of taken her off gluten, which we didn't really think was a problem, but she's doing a lot better since we haven't been having that.
Wow.
So.
Hey, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, all these little tricks of the trade we have to learn. Most kids with Down syndrome do have difficulty eating, or, you know, at least my son did, and now he can down a whole pizza with no problem. Okay, and Charles, would you look over here?
Hello, I'm Charles Colville, father of Joseph and Jonathan Colville. Jonathan has Down syndrome, Joseph is autistic, and my wife is just the greatest mom I could ever hope for.
I want you to tell her when we post this, you need to say, oh, you know, that was good meeting. Why don't you watch it? And then go, hey, he said cool stuff about me.
Yeah. She always thinks I don't, but I always do. So.
And tell what she's done for us for a long time.
So,
like 10 years ago, or I can't even remember when you first started doing it.
Yeah, she's just been with the boys ever since they were little. So, and so she takes care of them. She's a care provider, and she's always with them, and so she does a really good job. and the boys are like almost twice her size, so
I love
it's
it.
kind of a great thing, you know. So she depends on me a lot to just, you know, help her out with that. So, but it's good. So, and
Yeah, go ahead.
just so you guys know, I'm trying to be a personal trainer, and Michelle Jung, she's my teacher, and so we're trying to work on a special projects for children with Down syndrome or disabilities or whatever. So we're going to be working on trying to set up programs like you guys, but more so in a gym environment, to make it not just where we just go in and play around, but actually do some exercise and teach them how to do things correctly to help them with their weight and nutrition.
Wow, thank you.
Yep.
I don't know if it's true, but I heard that kids with Down syndrome are 30% stronger than typical people. And I know with David, when he was even young, he could pick me up and carry me around the room, and I'd kind of go, put me down. But secretly, I loved it because I thought for so long I carried you. But yeah, thank you for what you do.
Jonathan loves wrestling, and so he's always trying to pick me up and body slam.
Oh, yikes. You know, my David just had to go, and he's got some heart things going on. And his cardiologist, I worried to get out of the system when your kids are older. I thought, oh, they'll be not as loving, the doctors. I have the greatest cardiologist, but David always wants to arm wrestle him, and he beats him every time. So they are strong. They are strong. Thank you. And his wife helped us a lot with our walks in the past. She's been amazing. Okay, this sweet lady.
I'm Carolyn Collins, and Nathan is my 42-year-old son, and he's the light of my life and the bane of my existence. And he makes me laugh even when I am tearing out my hair, because he tells me he has issues, Mom, and I make him so frustrated, and I tell him that it's mutual. And we live about a mile and a half that way, I think that way. Anyhow, so we're really close to right here. But I don't know what I'd do without him. He is the blessing of my life. And I have 2 other children, and he has been a blessing to them. They're much more compassionate and funny because of them, and they both tell me that he might have Down syndrome, Mom, but he's still our little brother. Oh. So actually, he's my son's older brother, but he's kept them in line.
Oh, I love it. It humbles my heart. I mean, we're truthful. There are days we're like, this is the greatest kid in the whole wide world. There are days like, I didn't sign up for this. This is too hard. But we love them. I truly believe it's not a mistake. I think God sends them on purpose to teach us about unconditional love and being the kind of people we need to be. So, but we eat a lot of chocolate, and I drink a lot of Pepsi. So, all right.
My name is Adrienne Hinton, and I did drive down from Prescott. We have an awesome Sharing Down Syndrome chapter up there, but I was excited about this class, so I'm glad to be here. I have 4 sons. Our 3rd son is 11, and he has Down syndrome, and we also have a baby that's almost 1 that we adopted who also has Down syndrome. We were registered with the national network, the National Down Syndrome Adoption Network, and he was actually born in Mesa, here in Mesa. Wow. So that was like a big miracle for our family, and he's super cute. Yep.
Oh, so. I love it. Adrienne helps with our chapter up there. We couldn't do it without you guys. We couldn't, all that people do for us. But I was so humbled. We happened to go to the same church, and so when there's a thing we do in the temple where you seal a family together, and they invited me, and when I went, it was all I could do not to cry. Seeing the love for that little darling little boy, and I thought, you already got one, and you know what you're getting into, and you're signing up for another one. Oh my gosh! But yeah, but it's such an incredible blessing. Thank you for what you do up in northern Arizona for us too. All right, who's this cute lady? And tell what you do for us.
Hi, I'm Sdsa Wiley, and I have a little boy named Liam who is 3 years old. I'm on the Sharing Down Syndrome board this year, recently joined, so I've been working hard on the walk that's coming up on September 15th. We're currently the second place team by about $50, so I'm trying to remedy that. Coming up soon, I'm a little competitive, trying to get some matching funds from State Farm, my old employer here. So yeah, but definitely get out and register and keep fundraising. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. But yeah, I just adore my son, so he's
How has he changed you?
How has he changed me? So I waited 11 years to have a kid and went through a lot to have him, and he's just amazing. Like, he's absolutely amazing. And I think that I was a teacher, a high school English teacher, before I started working at State Farm. And I thought I was a creative person until I had my son. And I just realized, gosh, there's so many different ways to teach and so many different ways to reach people. And I'm taking that to State Farm now and trying to develop programs for people with disabilities so that we can help them acclimate to corporate culture and be successful there. So I just feel like it's opened up this whole new world and doors, and I'm excited about it.
Thank you. I loved when I met them. They were just on fire, and you have been ever since. And I am hoping, go to our website, sign up, create a team. This is how we get our money to fund each year. Everything we do is free to families, because when I started this, I felt like parents shouldn't have to pay to learn how to be good parents. So, all right, this sweet mom.
Thanks, Jenna. I'm Linda Jones, and proud mother of Sean, who's sitting next to us. Sean's 28 years old, and we feel like he was a miracle in our life. He was my 7th pregnancy, and we have no other children. So we're just so thrilled that he came to us. So anyway, I'm a retired teacher who happened to also have a degree in special education, and I taught kindergarten through 12th grade, and we've had a lot of people, when you hear what my husband did before he retired, we've had a lot of people who have said, oh, you were specially picked to be the parent of this child, and you're the perfect, and of course, no way near perfect, and we've learned many lessons by having Sean in our lives. So yes, we had some knowledge, but we didn't have the experience that came with loving someone as much as we loved him and wanted the best for him. So anyway, that's me.
Sean, tell us something. What do you want to tell us? What kind of shirt do you have on?
All you have to do is talk.
Just talk.
Yeah, just say hi.
Hi.
Who's on your shirt?
Batman.
Batman, are you guys jealous or what? I love it. Sean, you're a good guy, huh?
Yeah.
Where you go to?
Where do you go? Do you have a DTA you go to? Where do you go?
It is the house.
Neely. The Neely house.
Yeah.
Nice. Are they super nice there?
Yes.
Do the girls flirt with you?
Yes.
I knew it.
He's a lover like David.
Hey, Joe.
That's his sibling family.
Oh,
That Neely house.
By touch it.
I love you saying Dad talk.
Okay, am so proud of him and all that he's accomplished, and that he's just such a nice person and caring. And sometimes I wonder who has typical behavior or atypical when he talks to mom and dad, and sometimes calms them down, and he is absolutely an awesome individual that actually got me involved in a group that I would like to mention.
Sure,
is that Daring Adventures, which is an outdoor, basically, recreation that provides activities such as hiking, kayaking, ice hockey, river rafting, and this is how I got involved. Sean and I went on a 10-day trip down the Grand Canyon in motorized. These were motorized rafts, so we didn't have to do a lot of steering. We relied on the captain to do the steering, but was the most amazing experience of my life to see how all different groups were accommodated. We had blind, we had wheelchair, we had Down syndrome, we had a number of different types of of abilities. And we were on the water, like I said, for 10 days, and it was the most amazing trip of my lifetime. It's one of the reasons that now I do serve on the board of Daring Adventures, and it is a group that wants to provide outdoor activities. So many times once they leave school, the activities that they're exposed to really is reduced. And I mean, we're probably going to be going to the south rim of the Grand Canyon in September to do some camping. So if this is something that you have a son or daughter that would be interested in doing this, I have my card. I'll give you my card. You can go to our website, and they have a calendar of events that you can click on.
Is it expensive?
Right now, we're just being approved for DDD, so we're in the process of, like Civitan, where we'll be able to use hours, respite hours, which is really exciting because we're small and funding really, becomes an issue, and that we'll also be able to be a provider for respite and habilitation.
Wow.
Which, when the individual is over 22 years of age, the parents can now provide the habilitation. So,
wow.
Sorry if I was too wordy.
No, don't you love that when you love a child with any, and I love he said different abilities, that kind of hit my heart. Our kids have different abilities, but how cool that once you love one of our kids, you want to pitch in, you want to do something. That sounds fun. I'm not so sure whitewater rafting, I'd be nervous wreck, but I think that's awesome. All right, tell who you are, sweetie.
Okay, my name is Wendy Decker, and I'm from Queen Creek, and we have 5 children. The last 2 are twins, boy-girl twins, and the little girl, Ellie, my daughter, she has Down syndrome. They're 6 now. The older 3 are 9 years older, so we have a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and then we have a 9-year gap, and then our 2 little twins, so it's nice because we have lots of help. Ellie is a bundle of energy and pure joy. She is a good example to me of... I know, right?
Tell her to quit making us cry.
Holy cow. She's such a mother. She warned me 4 years ago that she would become the love of my life, and she is. She has such pure love for everyone. She says hi to everybody. I know your kids do too. Hi to everyone. Hugs to everyone. Just pure love. And she's a good example of nutrition. She says no to treats. What? And she's very active. I know, she's active. She swims, she horseback rides, she loves to sing and dance, and I love her with all my heart.
I'm Kara Barrett. I just live a few miles away, so I'm kind of lucked out that I didn't have to drive very far. But I am mom of 4 girls, and my number 3 is Paigey. She is 4, almost 5, and the youngest, and the smallest, I have one daughter under her, and she's now bigger than Paige, and so she calls Paigey her little sister, so it's really cute. But to go along with what you said, like, she sees through anything, any bad of anybody, and somebody that I would walk by on the street, she turns and she makes sure she gets eye contact, and do you see me? Because I see you, and hi, and brings out that smile for them, and she just changes the heart. She was changing hearts while she was still in the womb. She's an amazing little girl. And in fact, just a quick story real fast. At church, we were at church on Sunday, and these kids, she was making a noise, and it wasn't like a cognitive, it was just like a grunt or whatever. And these kids were like leaning back and looking at her, and my oldest daughter was like, "Can I hit them?" And I was like, "No."
Is church.
Yeah. I was like, "No, you can't hit them." I said, "Paige, you wouldn't hit them. You can't hit them either." I said, "We just need to help them understand." So I get eye contact with them, and I turn Paige over to them, and Paige says hi, and instantly you can tell those people just melt. Like, You know, so these children of ours are just, and again, we were told this from day one, like they're going to melt your heart. Like, and every day that goes by, we're just thankful that she's in our home. And I have to talk to you and you guys. My husband approved just today that our family could adopt another little one with Down. So I'm like elated. So then having you two say that, I'm like, yes. So let's get together. And
I love it. And if you get close to Kara, her shirt says Happy Heart on it. That is Kara. And Wendy, I love you. And this cute dad. And tell what you do for us.
I don't do much.
Oh, he's nice. He does a lot.
Hi, my name is Mike Factor. My wife and I have 4 kids. They're all at home right now. Our oldest is 8, and that's Andrew. Then we have boy, and girl after that. And they're just a great family unit. It's fun to watch them play and interact and do things and look out for each other. We live in Chandler. And our family loves to get together with people part of sharing, like dads groups and first parents nights and stuff like that. One thing I want to share, or 2 things I want to share about Andrew with is school related. Last year, 3rd quarter in spelling, he got 76 out of 81 words correct. He's doing amazing, and we're pretty diligent on the homework and try to get a tutor to help and find time to do all that. But he just, even though there's a communication issue from verbal speech, he's just dynamic. The other thing about school is I took him out of school one morning to go to a dentist appointment, and when we came in the room, it's like every child in that room had to go up and give him a hug and welcome him to class. And the same thing happens whenever he leaves the lunchroom. He'll leave the lunchroom and it's like everybody has to give him a hug before they go to class. So it's pretty neat to see how the community comes together with him and others and everything. So that's what I wanted to share.
I love it. Did our new parent dinners. He's very humble and doesn't brag, but he's amazing. Okay, give this cute dad.
Hi, I'm Jeff Baldus, along with my wife Tina. We have one daughter. Her name's Zoe. She turns 4 on Sunday. We're from Maricopa, and she's really been life-changing to us. She's been the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. So.
Same from you, boys.
Oh yeah.
Me first, I have, right?
My name's Tina Baldus. Of course, you know my husband. Our daughter will be 4 on Sunday, like he just said. I think 4 is a little bit more challenging than I thought right now. She's doing a lot of testing. So you're kind of in my mind, am I doing too much? Am I not doing enough? But she's doing great. She's her 2nd year in preschool. She's just doing wonders. It's really fun, like you guys said. They're very friendly, very social. She could just, the meanest face, she could make it a smile. Because she'll go up and say, hi, how you? And give a hug. And her hugs are like the best. And it's just fun to watch her walk in the room with the other kids. Because she wants to be part of it, and they accept her, and it just melts my heart. Or they see her and they'll say, hi, Zoe. And it's like, okay, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So, and I really want to thank you for all that you do. You've brought us together and brought us to a great support group to meet other families, and helps us with our phases that we're going through now and in the future. You're amazing. Your group, your crew, everybody's amazing.
I'm very grateful. I really believe when Linda, you said, oh, you're chosen because you're a special educator and all that. I do believe our kids pick us, but I don't think it's because we're the best. I think God helps us step up to the plate to be, and there are days you're like, and if you have, like we have 7, I can remember telling people I have a son with Down syndrome and 6 severely normal children. They drive me crazy, but it's worth every minute of it. I'm humbled at all you do. I'd like Polly to know how much I love her. She is this most incredible woman who comes, I just throw a box of cookies out, she decorates, she gets all the toys. She's worked for me for a long time, and she loves our babies, and I appreciate that. And I am so grateful to have you, Tracy, for the internship. I remember the day I met you and your baby was born. I didn't realize she had just barely been hardly told, and she said, "Do you think she has Down syndrome?" I'm like, "Oh yeah," and her face just fell, and I thought, "Oh, maybe." How do I back up a little bit? But you wait till you meet her daughter. She is incredible, right? She is one incredible young lady. I've asked my dear friend Teresa. Teresa's worked for our dental office for 20 years, and for me for about 50, no, or 100. They're younger than me. I'm 66. They're like a generation younger, and she jokes that our working and sharing is like the song Hotel California. Once you go in, you can't get out. So, but some of the calls we get are hard. Some of them are hard, and some are joyful. But I want her to tell you. I want her to introduce this amazing lady, and I want this lady to know. So I have to hug her. I want you to know how grateful I am to you for how your son has touched you and changed you. So not to embarrass you, Teresa, but will you come up and introduce your dear friend?
I absolutely love the Cox family. And so when Jenna asked me to be the one to introduce her, without hesitation, I said, "You betcha." I remember getting a call, and Rachel worked at the time in the office with me, but we both remembered getting the call from Dana and her husband Guy that they were expecting a baby with Down syndrome. And of course, we're always so excited, because that is like the best part of our job, because we always want to be the very first people to say, "Congratulations, we are so happy for you," because a lot of times that isn't how it happens with doctors and geneticists. And so we want to be the happy people, because it is a happy and joyous time. So anyways, we get this call. We're so excited for the Cox family. And then we find out that baby Carl has had some issues. And then we get the sad news that he has passed. And I just felt in my heart that I really wanted to go to the funeral. And it was way over, is it considered Glendale or kind of the Phoenix?
It's right on the border.
Yeah.
Between Phoenix and Glendale.
Yeah, so my husband is, born and raised in Phoenix. And so I got him to drive me to the funeral. And we didn't really know you guys very well. In fact, the funeral was the very first time that I met the entire family, besides talking on the phone. And so we sat in the very back, and of course I took like our bereavement package, and we always give our beautiful gentle heart picture, and so I had that framed and all ready to go. So Dell and I sat in the back, and I started crying so hard during the funeral because I was just completely heartbroken for this family and what they were going through. And it got so bad that I really tried hard not to snort. And my husband even put his arm around me and said, "Are you okay?" Yes, I am. I'm just really sad right now. But anyways, loved meeting them. And ever since then, and I will always call him Baby Carl. I don't know, that is stuck in my head. So I love Baby Carl. I still remember when he was born, 12/28/08. So he will be 10 years old in December. So it is sketched in my brain and in my mind. So anyways, then I found out through the years, they always go to like different activities, the walks, the runs that we've had in the past. So I always get filled in on what the family's been doing. Now the kids are not so little anymore. 10 years, they grow a lot. But I was so excited to hear when she got her doctorate in nutrition. And as soon as we kind of brainstormed this topic, I said, we have to bring in Dana. So Dr. Dana Cox, I am so happy that you're here with us, and I love you guys.
Yay,
Okay.
Well, can I tell one quick thing? Not to embarrass you? When I talked to her, she said, "Tell her what you told me."
Oh.
She was excited you were here.
So my daughter, who just got home from her mission about 3 months ago, she dated your older son before she left. And is he still on a mission, I'm assuming?
Yes. My son Eli?
Yeah, I don't know his
Who is
name.
your daughter?
She saw the picture because she was I wanted her to come and I showed her and she goes, oh, I dated her older son. And she can't come because she's in California. She was so sad.
Oh, so you'll have to tell me who your daughter is.
Alyssa McClellan.
Alyssa McClellan.
I just thought that was so cute.
Yeah,
What are
she
the
said she
odds?
met you.
Her cute daughter brings her cute son. Okay, time to you.
Okay. I heard a speaker recently who said that one of her objectives was to fall in love with her audience. And I didn't come here with that specific objective, but I have to say I feel that already for each of you. Thank you for sharing your stories, your love. Boy, I can feel it here. And this is the one place where I get to be. I've seen Jenna put this on things she's posted before, that she's David's mom. And there aren't very many places where I'm Carl's mom, because Carl isn't with us anymore. But I brought him tonight with us. So this is our Carl Bear. This was in his isolette.
Wait, hold it
when
up.
he
I
was
need
in
a
the hospital.
picture.
And he is always part of our family pictures, and he is very much a part of our everyday life. Just to make it just an all-out cry fest here. We have 5 other beautiful children. Thank you. Our oldest will be getting home in 2 months. He's been serving a mission in Mexico. And our second oldest son, I just got to spend time with him today. He is, I think he is one of the reasons that Carl is part of our family. That our second son has struggled with some mental illness and drug addiction. And I have no doubt in my mind that Carl has been, I'm so sorry, has been a guardian angel. Wow. And we pray for Carl and pray for our son every day. And he is very much an active part of our family even now. Oh, okay. If the crazy drive over wasn't enough.
It's our job to make you cry. How do we do? Pretty good?
I don't typically cry in a nutrition lecture. I do cry easily, but not usually this. Okay, we'll have to get this warming up again. All right. What's that? It is those onions. That's it. Okay, let's see how quickly I can get the technology going again. Okay, all right. Let me blow my nose so I'm not embarrassing myself. Okay. So, I know that you come here with love for family members, and I give the ground rule here that you know your family and your loved ones better than I do, and I hope that you will come into tonight with an open mind to learn something new, but also to trust your own instincts and follow what works for your family, and incorporate what new ideas you find that work for you. And please know this is a no judgment zone. I know that we often feel a lot of guilt around nutrition issues, and I hope that will not be the case tonight. In fact, I've titled my presentation Engaged Eating for Families, and we'll talk more about that word engaged and why I chose that word. But my subtitle is Cultivating a Positive Relationship with Food. So why in the world am I mentioning a positive relationship? I love this. This is a really old study. It seems like yesterday to me, but it was 1999 that a researcher at the University of Pennsylvania did a survey of people, asking them their attitudes towards food. So he was talking to them about things like, how do you feel about health? How do you feel about body, just your body and the way it feels, and different aspects of food. What's your relationship with food? And then the fun thing that he did was to assign each of those questions a different facial feature. And this survey was administered in 4 different countries, the US, Japan, Belgium, and France. And he got a composite image of men and women in each of those countries. And the more positive response corresponded to the more positive look. For example, if eyebrows, the positive response was, high and light and uplifted. The negative response was, whoo, eyebrows pointy, the angry eyes. And if you take a look at these images, so we go from the extremes. Men in France had a relationship that said, food. Women in the US, I don't know exactly how you describe that relationship, but do some of you relate to that? Not very pleasant at all. Definitely not thinking about the pleasures of food or the joys of fueling the body. Rather, very focused on the negative things, the worry, the guilt, the shame, those kinds of things. Okay, here we go. So our question then overall, how do we increase our pleasure in eating and our satisfaction with our bodies? Because I firmly believe those things go hand in hand. They are not separate issues. All right. Okay, so first of all, we will be talking about listening to our bodies, confronting negative feelings surrounding food, and making purposeful choices. Okay, a few caveats here. So this presentation is not meant to induce guilt. So we'll agree on that right off the bat, no guilt. It's not a list of good and bad foods. We're not here to malign different things. I don't believe in hand-slap nutrition. I don't think that's how we're motivated. It's not a program that I'll be describing for you or for your child. And it's not instruction for increasing willpower. How can I power through in a I'm going to beat this. That is not our goal tonight. So the presentation is meant to be liberating and empowering. My husband is an economist, and I think when we first got married, we said, it's too bad that our disciplines don't overlap more, so that maybe we could write a paper together someday or something. But it turns out they're so similar. Economics is the study of the allocation of scarce resources, or in other words, it's decision making. And there's so much decision making that goes on with nutrition. This presentation is guidelines for understanding and managing the food choices that we face, and facing the real choices, not the entanglements and the other things that get caught up in food. If you haven't noticed, food permeates a lot of what we do, and therefore we can get a lot of things tangled up in food decisions that don't actually belong in there. Food can't give us extra sleep. Can you believe that? If I'm tired, sometimes I feel prompted to eat. But that doesn't actually take care of that sleep problem. It's just not the miracle worker we want it to be sometimes. It can't wash away our sorrows or our fears or our boredom, but it comes into that. What's that? Okay. But we'll talk about the food choices that we do face and what role do we want those special foods to play in our lives. And I firmly believe that when we make those decisions purposefully, they mean so much more and they don't get watered down with other things. Okay, this is also suggestions for discovering and tuning into our body signals. I like to make the analogy that can you even imagine driving a car and you're thinking you might be getting low on fuel, and so you pull over and you pull out your owner's manual and you start looking to see how much gas do I need?
And then you pull it up on the internet. Gee, how much, I've got this kind of car, how much gas do I need? You start asking people around you, maybe you go to a special business or something like that to find out how much gas you need. It's ridiculous, it makes no sense. So the tuning into our body signals is really teaching us that, oh, we actually have a fuel gauge right on board, specialized for us. And learning how to listen to that, because maybe you've noticed that the signals that tell us we are close to starvation are a lot stronger than the signals that tell us, oh, we're full, don't top off. Okay, it's also ideas for teaching our children to recognize and listen to their body signals. And I can tell you that's a beautiful thing to help yourself or your child discover how to help themselves feel their very best. Okay, so here are our underlying assumptions with those goals. And we'll spend a lot of time on assumption number 1, and not quite as much on number 2 and number 3. But number 1 really encompasses a lot. So number 1, our bodies come equipped with the knowledge to take care of themselves. We'll explain more later. Number 2, food can and should bring pleasure and contentment to our whole selves. And number 3, not all foods are the same quality. There are different qualities to food. Purposeful choices about food can increase our health and enjoyment of food and decrease our stress and dissatisfaction with food and health. All right, so assumption number 1, here we go. The body's voice. Okay. So what I mean by this is that each of us have on board inside of ourselves the information that we need to care for ourselves properly and to grow properly. How many of you have ever given any thought to, gee, am I doing the right things to be the right height? Of course not. Of course not. But I bet that many of us have spent time worried about our size this way. We're very concerned about that, and it's all over in our media culture. That's what gives us the woman at the beginning who looked like this. That we have a lot of emphasis on that. But I do believe that our bodies contain the information to make us just the right size, not just height-wise, but our body size as well. There was a researcher back in the just before the Depression who did research that you would cringe to hear about today. But she was able to talk with women who were about to give birth or had just given birth, and she ran an orphanage where some of these women would leave their child at the orphanage. And she had these children who were newly weaned, and her little experiment was, back up a little bit, at that time there was a fad for families to feel like they really needed to follow a doctor-prescribed diet for their children, that they needed to make sure their children were eating exactly the right amounts at the right times and the right things. And Clara Davis kind of did a reactionary study then to say, is that really true? So she had 34 different foods that she would just rotate through different combinations throughout the days, and she has just scads and scads of data that she collected on these children, exactly what they ate, how much they peed and pooped, and everything that went on with these kids. And she found that, and it gave absolutely no information to the kids about what they should or shouldn't eat, or didn't give them instructions. She said that sometimes the children would nibble, hopefully, on a plate even, that they were really letting the kids kind of dictate what they would eat and how much of it whenever the meals were served. And the result was that these children all grew properly. They grew just as they should, with no instructions about how much they needed to eat and what foods they needed to choose. They were left to their own. She called it the trick with her study was that all the selections were healthful foods, things that provided lots of nutrients. But the conclusion of that, again, was that there can be many different eating styles that can all lead to a healthful outcome for growth. And that even young children could rely on their own bodies to tell them what and how much to eat. Okay, so this brings us to what are the jobs of parents and children in the feeding relationship? And maybe some of you have experienced some stressful situations around food. Maybe, I don't know. But I think it's a pretty good guess that oftentimes parents and children have some conflict around food. A wonderful author, maybe many of you have heard of her, but these are the division of responsibilities that were outlined by an author named Ellen Satter. And I love her work. But she's the one who kind of took the Clara Davis studies and put them into action items. So parents are responsible for what, when, and kind of a where, how. So like the food etiquette, what are the food rules at the table? People allow different things, for sure. We have a neighbor boy who spends a lot of time at our house. Love this kid. But in his family, that's A-okay. The whole family, they burp all the time. And it drives me crazy. No, you can't burp when you come over here. But everybody has their own food rules at the table. But that's what parents are responsible for. Children are responsible for, number one, whether, and number two, how much. Okay, and I propose that a lot of conflict in the feeding relationship comes when we have parents encroaching right in there. Okay, there's probably plenty too of children encroaching right up there with the what, especially in the grocery store. But we'll get to that. Okay, so what does it look like to have these responsibilities for a parent? Okay, so it's nice to think about letting go of the conflict during a mealtime to say, you will eat this. There's actually a research paper titled that, You Will Eat That. And it's interviewing college students to find out how many of you were made to eat something, and all kinds of horror stories ensue. You might have some. I definitely do. We had all kinds of tricks. We definitely had that rule when I was a kid that you had to eat everything on your plate. And we had a big family. There were 9 kids in my family. And my dad sat at this end of the table, and I sat at this end of the table. So I got away with kind of a lot in that format. But so what do a parent's responsibilities look like? They look like routines. So routines that establish times for meals and snacks, and also being responsible for what you will serve. This is a tall order. I know that it is, and I haven't always followed it to the same degree myself either. But what are the benefits of this? For one, it allows for advanced decision making, not desperation or willpower decision making. Okay, and I want you to picture for a minute, what if you went to, you decided you needed to go buy a new car, and you decided that, and then 2 minutes later you just went down to the dealership and hopped into whatever you were told to do. I say you were told because hopefully nobody's a car dealer here, but can be high pressure. We wouldn't do that. We would want to make sure we knew how much we had to spend, what were we willing to do, etc. And I propose that when we're talking about our food fueling our bodies, that we make different decisions in advance than we do when we're in a panic or in the moment. Oops, I'm going to keep losing we have this notorious laptop that times out very regularly. Sorry. We'll get back to it eventually. But I love this definition. Thank you. Okay. So this definition, the willpower gap, is the space between our ideal state of how we'd like to be eating and the choices that we're actually making day in and day out. Okay, isn't that amazing to think about? That it's that gap between what we'd like to be doing and what we're actually doing. So relying on willpower, we don't really meet what our goals are. Okay? And that's saying nothing, again, no judgment zone. Each of us will pick different goals. We will have different priorities when it comes to food. But when we have a plan, we can know that we're doing what we actually want to do instead of leaving it to this willpower in the moment kind of idea. Because we don't really have a lot of willpower in the moment. And I'm maybe you know this too, but for myself, if I'm faced with, I need to make a decision right now in this moment, chances are the Snickers bar is probably going to look a little better than, oh, how fast can I cut up the carrots and, make a stir fry or whatever. When we leave our decision making to that moment, we make different choices than we might if we plan ahead. So fantastic to avoid that willpower decision making. Secondly, it preserves our time and focus for other things. It was a while ago that I made kind of a radical change in how faithful I wanted to be to our routines of timing. And I remember once I got into that habit, it was amazing how, gosh, I could actually sit at the computer and work on something without just having the thought float through my mind of, would I like to have a handful of peanuts right now? Or whatever it might be, something where food is more of a distraction during those times. So it can preserve your time and your focus for other things. I've already got a plan in mind, so I'm not fretting about what am I going to serve for dinner tonight. I have to say I really like to cook, but who likes to cook every single night? And I love to cook, but wow, it comes around every night, And by having this routine in place, you can actually even recycle your plans and use them again. But preserving your time and your focus frees you up. Finally, and this is kind of a really neat one, children know what to count on. And this is especially before they can tell time. A child who doesn't know when the next meal is coming might be more anxious or nervous about when's it going to come, especially if you've got older children and you're running from here to there and you've got this younger kid who's left going, when am I going to eat again? And there were a series of really crazy studies. Maybe some of you have heard of Ansel Keys, who did studies with some people in World War II opted not to do active duty service, and instead they went to Ansel Keys and participated in his nutrition study, which was just they were trying to get an idea of what people who had been prisoners of war or had deprivation because of war events. They wanted to see the impact on them. And there were men who were typically consuming about 3,000 calories, and they went down to about 1,500 calories. So it's really not a super restrictive, that's cutting a lot, but you're still getting enough nutrients. These people were not starving, but they became obsessed with food. That one of the participants even went on to write a cookbook, and they just fantasized about food. And if you've ever done any type of restricting in your own life, you might recognize that the more you try to cut it down, the more you can't think about anything else. And for children, knowing what time a meal is coming next allows them a lot of freedom to choose, to say, maybe this peanut butter and jelly sandwich will do because I'm not going to have anything else until this time, but they can count on that. They know what to count on. They know what they're in for. Older children love it too, because I used to hear all the time, "What's for dinner? What's for dinner?" And I don't get that question now. And it's and then I can't get, sometimes I would be a little offended, like, "Why do I always have to make dinner? Why do you think I know?" Because I do know. But it gives them a lot of power too, to know the answers to these things. They know what's coming. So lots of benefits to a routine. I've got a little, this is very tiny in your handouts, but it doesn't matter the formatting or anything like this. But I give you a little challenge, I guess, to think about a food plan that includes not just what's for dinner, but thinking through your food choices for the whole day. And if you're interested in including more fruits, more vegetables, this is where it goes. That's where the decision to, I guess I'll have some blueberries, or I'll have a banana for breakfast in addition to what I would otherwise eat, to add in the salad or the carrot sticks or whatever with your lunch. This is a powerful setting for when that happens. When I'm saying, this is a goal that I have, this is how I make it happen, by putting it down and thinking about it. And then I can shop from that, and I can shop once a week instead of that desperation stop at 5 o'clock at the grocery store, and I'm grabbing whatever's quick and easy, which I've done. Please don't think I'm immune to these things, but this plan gives us more time to, or a better way to focus on what are our goals, whatever they may be. Okay. Okay, so really sticking to it. And I propose with this that it's better energy spent trying to come back to the routine of planning than it is to beat ourselves up about, I can't believe I ate that, or why didn't I stop at 1, or why didn't I stop at 5, or whatever. That kind of beating ourselves up is really destructive. If we want to come back to something, keep coming back to planning. Keep trying. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're trying to do our best, whatever we define that as, and we can always make it a little better, but keep coming back to the plan. And there's an author that I won't mention because there's a lot of her stuff that I really don't like, but I guess I should give credit. Maybe some of you have heard of bright line eating. Anybody? Any recognition there? Don't look it up, okay. It's kind of radical, but I really do like some of the things that she talks about with routines and the power of automation, where we're not thinking through every single time. We talk about this in a setting of avoiding drug use or making plans to not smoke, that those decisions are made ahead of time, not in the moment. So she has a lot of really neat psychology things about decision making with that. But one of her things is she talks about no BLTs. And what do I mean by that? She talks about no bites, no licks, no tastes. And so this is between meals. And why would we do that? One, so that we're actually hungry for the meal. You can be snacking all through meal preparation, and you sit down and you think, wow, this doesn't even look good anymore. You know what I'm talking about. We can, if we aren't tasting things as we go, we can be very highly motivated to get that meal on the table. We take less time with it because we prepare faster and with more focus when we're not doing these things, the snacking between meals. Additionally, we can all sit down as a family and enjoy the experience together. And that's pretty special. Those moments when you're together as a family just don't seem to happen as often as would be ideal. But if we're sticking to the plan of eating just at those meal times, we can enjoy that with our families. This lady has some pretty extreme measures to help teach how to do that. I'm not advocating these. This is not on camera. But she even says that she has taped her lips together, which I wouldn't recommend. I've never done that. But brushing our teeth between meals can help us to have that fresh feeling and help us to, and we're not restricting. We are saving the experience for the time that we've planned for. Really powerful possibilities with that. What if I don't follow my plan? How wonderful to just keep coming back to the plan. And I've put in here, but can you even imagine if you were so tired one night that you didn't brush your teeth and you got up in the morning and said, I didn't brush my teeth last night. It's all shot. I'm not brushing them today either. Can you even imagine? It makes no sense, right? But we do that with meal planning and with nutrition in general. We have words that I think do not belong associated with food at all. Words like cheat. How do you cheat? What's a cheat day? Sorry, you're hearing my pet peeves come out. I told myself I would keep those in check. But go ahead. But we're not cheating. There are no food police out there to say, oh, you fell off. You're worthless now. So if we don't stick with it at some time, or if, like tonight, I actually had planned ahead. We had beans on the menu for tonight. I had even soaked them the night before, which I often forget to do. I'd soaked them the night before. They were in the crock pot all day. I was ready to dish them up, and they were still hard. Anyway, so...
Did you get a Snickers?
I didn't get a Snickers. I threw something else together really fast. But should I say, oh, it just didn't work? I'm not going to do it anymore. It didn't work out. Keep coming back to it. This is where we can do exactly what we want to do with our nutrition. Whatever that is, however we set it, we'll be meeting our goals by having a plan. Okay, now I mentioned that one of the parents' responsibilities is choosing the what. Okay. The input of our children, our end goal is we want our children to be able to make all of their own food decisions. Whether we want that or not, at some point, many of them will be making their own food choices. And here I recognize we have a lot of diversity in developmental milestones and when we might hit those. But I've put in a few different stages at which children might start to have a lot more input. When you've got a brand new baby and you're feeding them milk, there's not a lot of choice going on in there. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But as a child starts self-feeding, which happens pretty young, right? They're grabbing, they're putting things in, that changes the dynamic. Self-preparation then, and that, as I put, can range from just being able to open something. Wow, that opens up possibilities for a child, doesn't it? Being able to stick something in the microwave and heat it up, there's another step, right? To actually being able to follow a recipe. So we have these stages going on. Food outside the home, okay? You may think, oh, I've got complete control right here in my house. But at some point, they'll be going to stay with friends or off to school or whatever. We don't have complete control. Self-acquisition. So here, she can buy her own food with her independent source of funds, okay? So what do you do when they start buying the Snickers bar in the snack bar at school? Self-transportation. So now they've not only got the money, they've got the means to get there. And then finally, independent living. So just some of these milestones to remember that we can involve children, and even if we don't involve them, eventually they will take over all of the choices. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about what the parents' responsibilities look like. What do the children's responsibilities look like? And this, Ellen Satter recommends that children dish up their own food selections and portions. And this might make some people go, oh, no way. And we'll talk about some things with that. And then additionally, children may eat what they want from the foods provided at the meal. And this is where it's interesting to think about the Clara Davis studies. Can you confidently say that my children can pick from the foods on the table and be able to choose for themselves and have a mix? And if we are putting, you know, the Cheetos bag and the, I don't know what else, but, you know, if it is things that don't provide nutrients and that's it, they won't be able to get those things. But this is the child's responsibilities. I put in a few notes because I have a lot of children, and I've watched them dish things up. I come from a large family also, and I think as a kid, what I like to think of as the rare nights when we had tater tots. Whoa! And you know, I've got 9 kids and some, you know, little family-sized bag of tater tots that would feed a family of 4, but not me and my 9 siblings, you know, or 8 siblings, 9 of us all together. So there are issues with sharing things. Okay, that's not restriction because of a concern about caloric intake, right? It's okay to put limits on when we're trying to share things. It's also okay to put limits on that are waste related. If you're seeing a child who is, we often have this with rice. When we have rice with a meal, we've got one kid that's, you know, just going. Like, come on, there's not enough rice for everyone to take a serving like that. And the way that we talk to our children about that is, it's not weight focused. It's not talking about the energy. Oh, you're gonna really pack on the pounds if you eat that. We talk about it from a standpoint of sharing because it's very important to preserve in the children. They're the only ones with that fuel gauge. We don't have it, they do. But we can talk about these things in terms of waste and sharing. We don't have to let them just go hog wild to preserve their control there. Okay, so what can parents do to help children really master their responsibilities? Because they're in charge of the whether and how much. And this will become especially important when we start talking about the assumption number 3, where not all foods are created the same. That if we were at the extreme of saying we will never have any processed foods in our homes, then we could just step back and say, go. But I'm guessing that that's probably not where any of us are. I'm not trying to be offensive if anyone is in that realm. I was explaining some of these ideas to my husband about how to teach children to appreciate processed foods and things we might call junk foods and enjoy them without losing the experience or getting it out of control. And he said, oh, that sounds like the parent who says, I want my child to drink alcohol responsibly, so even though they're not 21, I'm going to have it at home. No, that's not what I mean. So if you feel like no processed foods, please don't think this is for you. But we'll talk about how to ask questions to help our children know that they're appreciating the ones that they're having. And I don't mean appreciating you for getting it. I mean that they're still enjoying that experience, that it is a special experience. Okay, so 3 things that we're going to go over, ways that parents can have an impact on helping their children master their responsibilities in the whether and how much, specifically the how much. We'll do more on that. So the first one is zooming in on hunger and fullness. We'll talk about 2 different things there. Using questions of discovery. Isn't that a fun word to use in terms of food? Thinking about discovering how our bodies work and function, how they feel. And number 3, connecting the dots of the whole body experience. right? Because the tongue has a pretty loud mouth in our whole body system when it comes to food. But there's a whole process, and we have to learn those different parts and how they feel. Okay, so number one with that, on how to help children learn about how much they want to eat. Okay, the first concept is the threshold bite, and the second is the hunger and fullness scale. So a really fantastic book, this I recommend wholeheartedly, is titled Intuitive Eating. And I think this is fantastic for anyone who, as an adult, would like to make a change in their own relationship with food. I think this is the Bible of it. Intuitive eating. And this comes from Intuitive Eating. They talk about the last bite threshold. This is the bite after which food won't taste as good or be as satisfying. And this is a lot of fun. So when you think about why would we need to identify that? Why would I want to know that exact point when that food doesn't taste as good? For one thing, it can really help us maximize our enjoyment of the foods. I don't know how many of you have ever seen the movie or read the book Matilda. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Okay. I love, love, love the scene. I tried to get like a little YouTube clip and I couldn't cut and paste from it, but when Bruce Bogtrotter has stolen a bit of the nasty Principal's chocolate cake, that he probably really enjoyed that first bite that he took of that, right? But his punishment, she puts him on the stage at school and brings out, it looks like it's this big and it has this little sliver out of it. But she brings this out and she makes him eat the whole thing. Okay, so that gives us kind of an example of the law of diminishing utility, that as we consume successive units of something, and my husband isn't here, he cringes when I use economics things because I always bend them and twist them just a little bit for my liking. But it's essentially meaning that as I keep consuming, I enjoy it less and less. Okay, I'm assuming everyone's kind of experienced that. The first donut, awesome, but second, third, fourth. Have you ever eaten something until you are just really sick of it and you just can't stand it anymore? That's the law of diminishing utility going on. That when we identify that last bite threshold, it helps us to really enjoy our food more, to recognize when does it turn off? When do we really stop enjoying it as much? It can also maximize our body feel. We feel better, when we'll talk about this very soon, when we're not over full. And I've written on here the sandwich study because I love this one. So a group of researchers looked at college students, or had them come in. They came in on 4 different days and they mixed this up. It wasn't all the same order. But they gave them the exact same lunch on each of the 4 days, not 4 days in a row. The only thing that they varied was a sandwich. Okay? So they gave them, a bag of apple slices and chips and I don't know what went with it. But they gave them the same thing except the sandwich. And if you picture like the little Subway sandwiches, they varied the size of the sandwich on each of the days. Okay, and what do you think happened as they ate larger sandwiches? How much did they eat? What's that?
Oh, they're small.
Yeah.
You didn't eat the whole thing. They stopped when they got full, or?
Wow, that's actually not what happened. They ate more and more and more. Okay, so the more they were, the larger the sandwich. And now, understandably, with the very small one, because they went from 4-inch up to 12-inch sandwiches. With the 4-inch, many of them were still hungry. But the 4-inch sandwich, they ate fewer calories, and it went up and up as they ate, as they were served a larger sandwich. They ate more. That's not super surprising, but the interesting thing was they were also asked to rate their hunger and fullness. And their ratings of their fullness, even though their energy intake was going up significantly, several hundred calories worth, this is where their fullness ratings were. They couldn't tell the difference. They still felt about the same full. We don't tune into that at all. We don't pay attention to it, even though we've got a pretty big difference. And I submit that we feel differently when we pay attention to that, not in a restricting, how can I shame myself way, but learning, discovering, trying to maximize how we feel. Okay, this is in your handouts. This is a hunger and fullness scale. This also comes from intuitive eating, where they say, we receive the most satisfaction from our foods when we start out somewhat hungry and eat until we are just satisfied. Okay. My family did our own little modification of this. There are lots of different food scales out there. I encourage you to go home and do that with your family. It's a really powerful tool. The way that our family, we have a lot of runners. And so we talk a lot about, for us, the analogy that makes a lot of sense is, how do you want to feel on the starting line? If you're on the starting line for a race, you do not want to be full. That would feel really yucky, right? You're cramped up and that would feel terrible. You also do not want to be hungry. If you're just famished and you're on the starting line, you'll have no energy, no nothing. So that's where our beginning point was on our hunger fullness scale. So number 5, you can see right here, I keep pointing to my screen here. On the starting line, we're neither hungry or full. And then we go up and down from there. So number 4, we're starting to think about food. Number 3, we're definitely feeling hungry. And this is a great time to start eating. And our food tastes really good because we're ready for it. Have you ever gone to like a fancy restaurant or something like that and you're not actually hungry? And I wish I was actually hungry. That this is the great place to be eating when we are hungry, and food tastes really good there. Number 2, we're becoming grumpy with hunger. Number 1, we're overly hungry, feeling faint and angry. And 0, we're completely preoccupied with hunger and thinking about food. And then we can go up the other way. Oh, here we go again. With number 6, we're slowing down, but food is still tasting good. Number 7 is where we can still, that's a good place to stop, where we're feeling comfortably satisfied. Number 8, we go to where we're loosening the belt. And we've had all kinds of fun in our home with this development of this scale, mostly because of this, because my husband infamously said, my husband has never really thought a lot about his weight or food intake. It's one of those things for him that has come, that's just been a part of him. He's always stopped eating when he was done. And but I made a comment about loosening the belt, and he was like, why would anyone eat until they hurt? You know, like, why? Why would that ever happen? And I shared that with a lady I was counseling, and she said, I couldn't stop thinking about that all week long. That why would I eat until I hurt? But number 8, then, food is no longer as enjoyable. We're feeling some discomfort. That loosened the belt. Number 9, we're definitely uncomfortable. And by number 10, all we can do is lay down. And this is where it got silly in our house. I have an 8-year-old who's saying, I think I'm at 100. And, I think I'm going to explode. So it can be really fun, but this is powerful for your children. Just like how powerful it is to be able to name your feelings, to be able to say, oh, that's sadness. Oh, that's disappointment. Those are powerful tools. And being able to describe their feeling is super powerful for a child, and really helpful for them to think about and maximize that enjoyment. To be in that zone where food is pleasurable, where we really do enjoy it. I've talked to a lot of moms in particular, but who feel like, you know, if I let my son go with candy bars, he would eat them all. And I think, and sometimes I say it depends on whether or not they're asking. I really try not to say something if people aren't asking, because they're not always asking, you know. But the best thing is to let him do it. Go ahead. And I recognize that there are, even someone who's a diabetic or something like that, sometimes the best thing is to help them discover and feel, rather than you be the one that's, don't do that, you're going to go up to 300, whatever. That them discovering and feeling is so much more powerful than you experiencing and answering the questions for them. You can look out and say, oh, I know that little Bobby is eating too much, but it's much more powerful for little Bobby to discover on his own. And we can't do that in a leading way. We really have to let children answer these questions for themselves. But I encourage you to go home, do this with your family, make us a chart like this, and talk about it. Talk about how you feel. Think about it for yourself, and I promise you will maximize your enjoyment of your food as well. Okay, using questions of discovery is our second one. So now that we have this scale, we can ask things like, where are you on the hunger and fullness scale right now? That is not done in the tone means everything on that. Okay, where are you on the hunger and fullness scale? That's giving the eye, as Ellen Satter calls it. But you know, that look, we're not doing it in a judgmental way. This is a process of discovery. Asking, are you hungry? This was my husband, the economist, who, as we started having meal times, our children were getting older, he would always ask, as they're asking to be excused from the table, are you hungry? And I love that. Not, are you full? Are you hungry? You're not walking away from the table hungry, are you? Are you still enjoying that? That can be a really good question to just bring it back in. And especially when we're asking it open-mindedly, not as a way to cut someone off, but helping us to tune in, to think about it. I like this one. So you've had 2 helpings, servings, whatever. If you think that your child might be getting close to being over full, go ahead and ask a question like this. You've had 2 servings. Let's wait 10 minutes, let those food signals come up to the brain, and see how you feel then. Especially if you are, thinking about I don't want to give you every one of the whatever it might be that you're serving. But this is a way to ask a discovery question. They are still in control, but you're helping to plant a seed of thinking about it. Okay, and this too. This is especially true if you are in a situation where you've got a lot of highly processed foods or something like that. It sounds like you're hungry. Let's try some foods that will fuel your body and then see if this still sounds interesting. We haven't cut off or suggested they can't do that, but we can also bring it back into, you sound hungry. Those are teaching moments, not restriction moments. And then the reminder at the bottom, you can't answer these questions for someone else. Okay, finally, connecting the dots of the whole body experience. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, our tongues have a really loud and dominating voice. But there are other parts of our bodies that are influenced, our stomachs, our intestines, the whole digestive process. And then beyond that, the fueling of our body. How does this work over time? How do we feel? Okay, so with our tongues and our mouths, some different characteristics of the signals that we get from our tongues are that they're immediate. And it's easy to associate that with a specific food, right? We put it in our mouth and boom, we're tasting something. So that signal is very clear and very distinct. But we do have to pay attention to be able to remember what's the aftertaste, what's the mouth feel, how does that leave my mouth feeling? So questions to encourage discovery of our tongue signals. Does it taste good? Does it feel good in my mouth immediately? Does the mouth feel change over time? And if so, in a good way or a bad way? Is this food refreshing? These are questions we can tune into. With our stomachs and our intestines, and this is where there are really a lot of teaching opportunities. Because these signals are characterized by a delay. We don't immediately start feeling that digestive process right when it hits our mouths. Therefore, it's not always easy to identify that it's associated with one food, because in fact, several things have gone in. So we have to pay attention to that. Do I feel bloated, queasy, knotted? Does this food stick with me? Do I feel hungry again right away? Do I feel comfortable? Do I feel stretched? Am I satisfied? Okay, and these are big ones here at the very end that we're not always very comfortable talking about. But as far as connecting the dots, this is powerful information. How does my urine look? Do you ever pay attention to that? Around here, I hope so. That if we've got dark colored urine, we're not drinking enough. And as my kids have been runners, they don't, once they've started running, then they realize, oh, Mom, all that stuff you said about making sure to drink makes so much more sense now. That we really have to pay attention to our hydration status. And that comes partly from monitoring our urine. What does it look like? Teach your children to notice that and to self-correct if they can pay attention to that. How are my bowel movements? If you think the urine's uncomfortable to talk about, wow. The bowel movements even more so. But paying attention to that can give us information. Am I getting enough fiber? Do I like the food choices that I'm making? If my stomach has been upset from the foods that I've eaten, I'll notice in the change in my stools. Okay, so we've made the assumption that we have this inner voice that tells us what to do. So what has happened to my inner voice? And I put up here, you can't see it super well from the light, but so Little House on the Prairie versus today. Anybody notice anything about that Little House on the Prairie? Yeah.
Organic.
No processed stuff, it's fresh. Does it look ready to eat? Not at all. It looks like you would walk in there and go, wow, I've got probably a good hour at least of food prep time before I'm ready to eat. Okay? You would not be a last minute decision maker if you were walking into this pantry, would you? And you would know that it was going to be a time commitment. You've got some work to do. This stuff is preserved and stored, but it's not ready to eat. Whereas this, how much time would you have to spend to have this ready to go? Okay, somebody said 2 seconds, somebody said none. You're probably all right. If we maximum 2 minutes in the microwave or something like that, right? Or through the drive-through. I don't think drive-thrus are fast. I've got a lot of kids. Gosh, I could put peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the table before we could get through a drive-through any day. But this is ready to go. It's fast. It's prepped. We're not facing the same food situation that we were back in this era. How does that impact our inner voice? Okay, it's less nutrition. But these are a lot harder to turn off from too, aren't they? How many people do you think were picking up the turnips and boiling them and then just eating them until they were stuffed? Probably not, right? Probably not. Our food is more, it's called different things in the literature, sometimes highly palatable, highly stimulating. But however you look at it, we've got food now that will just keep sending the pleasure signals to the brain again and again. And those turnips don't do that, right? Okay, we don't overeat on that. So our food supply has changed a lot, and that impacts our inner voice, and it's something that we have to learn to listen to. And we learn to do that by paying attention to the other signals going on. So as that picture suggested, the types of foods that we have changed. We have preservation and processing techniques that have advanced. There's all kinds of research and development dollars that are spent to help foods achieve what's called a bliss point. It's kind of creepy to think that these terms are all over in the marketing world and in the food industry. But this bliss point is the perfect blend of sugar, salt, and fat. So that things just keep going, whoo, wow, in the brain. And they also do things like minimize swallowing. Why would this be a goal of the food industry? Do you think that they're just out to make us all fat? That's not their primary goal, right? But the more we eat, the more they sell, right? So keep that in mind. That's our food supply. That's what it is. It's designed to help make it as easy as possible to eat mindlessly and a lot. Additionally, it's very easy to get food. We have food everywhere. We have food in the hardware store. We have food in, we don't go anywhere without food for a child. Heaven forbid a child would cry out or throw a fit or something. We've got the goldfish. We're ready, right? Ready to shove those in. But food rules have changed. We eat anywhere. There was a time when people wouldn't eat at their desk in the office. But, that's very standard now. Okay, so lots of changes in our food supply. Additionally, things that make our inner voice disappear include restrictive and controlling behaviors. These confuse our inner voice. So things like diet mentality. I've got to cut back. When we do those restrictions, our bodies don't care that we're doing that on purpose. That we're saying, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight. Our body says, holy cow, we're in starvation mode. Marshal all the forces. We want to preserve everything. We're going to slow down metabolism. We're going to make sure you think about food all the time. Diet mentality is really damaging to our inner voice. Weight cycling, that process of losing and regaining weight. When we lose muscle. When we regain fat. And that changes our metabolism as well. The Clean Plate Club, I already kind of mentioned that. When we say, you've got to finish everything, you need to eat all of those before you can get up. Food taboos and guilt. Okay? When we set up a food that's forbidden, that food becomes all the more interesting and exciting. And then when we throw guilt completely confuses everything. We're not using reason, we're using feelings and shame. And then a violation of the division of responsibility between parents and children. We lose our inner voice when our parents said to us, you will eat that. And when we do that to our children, they can lose that voice too. Okay, this is just showing the weight cycling, that yo-yo, start a diet, follow strict rules, lose weight, break the rules, feel discouraged, abandon the diet, regain the weight, and usually more. Okay, so that's what happens to our inner voice. Okay, and we've talked about ways to tap into the inner voice again if we've lost it, or to teach it to our children. Okay, so our second assumption that we won't spend a lot of time on, because as I said, most of it was on assumption number 1, which was that we have this inner voice. So assumption number 2, food can and should bring pleasure. Okay. Some of you may recognize. Anybody know who Sensei Wu is? No Ninjago fans out there? It's compliments of my 8-year-old. So one of the episodes of Ninjago, they spent trying to figure out what's the best way to defeat an enemy. And finally, Sensei Wu shared with the ninjas, that the best way to defeat an enemy is to make him your friend. And food can be our friend. How? This could be a really long talk right here, but it won't be tonight. I do encourage anyone who's interested in more information. The book Intuitive Eating is fabulous on this concept of confronting negative feelings that surround food. But a few main points. Untangling the emotions from food choices. So if you find yourself craving something or wanting a snack of something, not that you can't have that, but to say first, what am I really looking for? Am I really looking for a nap? Am I really frustrated about something that I feel out of control with? Can food provide help for that? Food can help with hunger. That's it. And sometimes that process of untangling, that may require counseling or other help. These are not small things. We can really have a lot of deep emotions tied up with food. Challenging the food police. Okay, so if you are experiencing shame, guilt, fear, that is not your body saying eat right. That is the food police. These are not helpful tools in our quest to feel our best. So really challenging those food police and saying, wait a minute, what's really going on here? Finally, stop body checking. So these are very comparative things that we might do. Some of you may not relate to this at all, but this is covered in intuitive eating. But walking into a room and sizing everyone up, saying, where do I fall? And we lose either way. We lose if we're the thinnest one. We lose if we're the heaviest one. These are destructive feelings of comparison, but they are definitely tied up in food. That's the kind of culture that we have. So trying to get those negative feelings away. So we are engaged when we listen to our bodies. We confront negative food feelings. The answer to food imbalances is not increased restriction and willpower, but increased awareness and mindfulness. Nutrition information provides suggestions for how we might feel our best. This is not something to beat ourselves up with. Experiment on the word of the nutrition information that we find. See what feels good. When food is our friend, we are free to enjoy the foods that bring pleasure to our whole bodies in amounts that feel good. And this is a personal adventure of a lifetime. I went the wrong way. Okay, last point that we've really incorporated throughout already is that not all foods are the same quality. What is high quality food? And I love this because it is very simple. Very straightforward. This comes from Michael Pollan, who's a little bit, some of the people that I'm mentioning have some pretty extreme beliefs. But I love his food rules. He says in defense of food rule number 1, eat food, not what he calls edible food-like substances. Number 2, mostly plants. Number 3, not too much. That's pretty easy, right? Okay. So that's where that's our starting point. I think whatever our food choices may be from day to day, I'm guessing there isn't anyone out there who's saying, how can I get my kid to eat more Cheetos? Right? I'm assuming nobody's trying to get those edible food-like substances in. But as I said earlier, I'm assuming nobody's completely going without them as well. So going back to our food plan to include more high-quality foods every day, wherever they fit for you, and start wherever you are and go from there with adding in more. Having this plan can increase our consumption of whole foods, including whole grains, fruits, and vegetables. Planning decreases our prep time. We can do things like thaw something the night before. We can shop to have ingredients on hand. When we're looking at highly processed foods, there's a lot of debate out there about whether or not there is such a thing as food addiction. Okay. And I can tell you from the research, there is no scientific consensus or any kind of a mechanism that's been identified that says, oh, this makes food addicting. But it's actually a pretty helpful paradigm to use in considering how we want to use processed foods in our diet. Using them purposefully and for pleasure, because they're not contributing health-wise. So think about how we want to put them in and be mindful about it. And whatever our choices are, enjoy them. Okay. I'm not going to go over this because we're running short on time, but it's just the Yale Food Addiction Scale. This probably isn't even legible from your copies because it's kind of tiny. But what it gets at is questions that ask people about the addictive properties of food. And whether you believe in a food addiction model or not, there are definitely things that mimic that in processed foods. They behave differently than, as I said, our boiled turnips and things like that. So treating processed foods like an addictive substance. So number one, we don't need any of them. We don't need any processed foods in order to grow. So if we're going to include them, make sure you're including them because you enjoy them, right? So set the bar of pleasure high for treats and processed foods. That don't waste your time with a cookie you don't like. Make sure it's a cookie you actually can enjoy. And think about, when do you stop enjoying it? I could tell stories about treats. One of my favorite treats has been kettle corn. I love kettle corn. I think it's super yummy. And I tasted it once at like an agricultural fair. It was made in this huge cast iron kettle. It was fabulous. And then I never had it again for years. It wasn't popular yet. And then at a cross-country race one time, we saw a stand that had kettle corn, and my husband bought me some, and we just wolfed it down. It was so yummy. And then we got it a couple of times, and then I realized, oh, I have one of those oil popcorn poppers. I made it myself. And then I started having that treat too often, and now I don't even like kettle corn very much anymore. So be careful. Take care of your pleasure things. You can, you lose them, you ruin them if you do them too often. So plan for times to consume them when they can be savored and enjoyed. Not relying on the willpower, but do it purposefully and without guilt or judgment. Do it because you've chosen to do it. Okay, this is from the movie Ratatouille. This is where we'll end. So in that movie, there's a young chef who is pretending to be a chef. Actually, a rat is the chef. But this young chef says to this really snobby food critic, he says, "You're thin for someone who likes food." And the food critic replies, "I don't like food. I love it. I don't love it. If I don't love it, I don't swallow it." And there are lots of settings in which we can do that. Don't swallow treats or things unless they really are a treat. Okay, so in summary, here's where we've been tonight. Parents' greatest influence on children's eating comes through their roles of planning food availability and scheduling eating times, not from monitoring exactly what they're eating and whether they're eating that. Encourage your child and yourself to learn to listen to your body cues. Plan to eat food and enjoy treats at times and intervals that maximize your enjoyment of the food and the way you feel. Involve children in these plans and prioritize family meal times. Keep course correcting and don't give up. And that's it. You've made it through.
Oh my goodness. I love this. You said some things that struck me. My one daughter-in-law has a cute little thing in her kitchen that says, "I'm sorry what I said when I was hangry." And I had never heard that, but I thought, when I'm hungry, I'm a little crabby. So, and when you talked about identifying feelings, doesn't tie in with food, but when we had David, I didn't know I was grieving. I didn't know I was sad. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And the hospital gave me books that weren't good, but someone else sent me this book, and I'm reading it. And in the process, it said, if you're grieving, you will sigh. And right at that moment, I went, and I thought, I'm grieving. That's what it is, I'm grieving. I mean, it felt really good to identify the emotion. So I didn't even think of that with food. I think there are times, I know I do comfort eat, that I'm upset or I'm sad, and I do like chocolate, but you know what I mean. So thank you. This was really powerful. Thank you so much. Can we give her another round of applause? Yay. And don't look, okay? Look that way. Okay. Teresa, come here. Go sit and tell her why. Okay, now you can come up and look.
Okay, so we always like to give our guest speakers a thank you gift. And we found this willow tree of a mom with a little boy that we thought fit the age of baby Carl. And then just a beautiful gift book that I hope you don't have this yet.
I don't.
Okay, good.
No.
It is amazing. This is one of our favorite books. Thank you so much,
Thank
Dana. We appreciate it.
Wait, turn around. Look
Y'all
over
get to
here.
see me cry again.
1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This just humbles my heart. I am so grateful you would all come and share. It's hard. Something I think that's hard with kids with Down syndrome, I don't know if it's with your kids, but my David doesn't have the valve in his brain that says, I'm really full. I don't know if your kids do this, but he'll just keep eating, So I don't know if they don't feel that feeling, but sometimes I just keep eating for whatever reason. But I appreciate so much you coming all this way. I would like, where's your baby? Okay. Okay, I would like, when he comes back in, we love to get a picture with you, with everyone, and you have to be near the baby with Down syndrome. So I just love it. And so we'll have a little time. We just need to be out of here by 9:30. We don't have to stay that long. And I know you have a long drive home, but I just thought, do you want to ask any questions while we're waiting for the cute baby to come? Yeah.
I'm super curious about slide number 2 that you had. It's the one where you're showing the pictures about the people in the United States. The woman is so upset with food. But in France, both the men and women love food. This is great. They're happy about it. So what's with the French culture that makes them enjoy that so much?
There are a couple of levels to that answer, really, and not that we fully understand, but there's something called the French paradox, even, which talks about how, we've been so anti-fat, and they eat a lot. They eat more fat than we do in this country, but they eat smaller portions as well. That is a priority in their culture. They have a 2-hour lunch break. That a French person would turn up their nose at McDonald's, like, are you kidding me? This is food, They put a really high priority on cooking, food preparation. They teach children to enjoy and appreciate food. It's really a part of their culture. Whereas in the U.S., how much time do we spend eating? We wolf it down. We don't spend a lot of time. But our emphasis is much more on those health factors. How many calories does this have? We have all the worry and whatnot associated with the food without having the health benefit of enjoying it. So.
And it seems too, like in France, they're always like at cafes with family and friends, and they're toasting, and it's like so social too.
It's definitely an event.
Enjoying it with company and family. So, yeah.
Yes.
Ingredients are a big factor as well.
Oh, for sure.
Especially visiting Ukraine, I mean, their pastries only last, 10 hours.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's you completely tasted it. And we ate so many pastries and stuff there and lost weight because it just doesn't have the ingredients that are good. It's completely noticeable when you're in another country.
Yeah. Interestingly, Michael Pollan talks about Never eat anything that won't rot after a few days.
There's a lot to be said
Yes,
with that.
yes.
Donald French fry will not rot. We all found them in our car seats, right?
Hey, they still are good. No. Teresa, you brought up a really good point. When we were in Europe, we went out to dinner. We were in Italy, and I kept waiting for the check and waiting for the check, and they never came. And finally, I said something. He said, "Oh, well, no, we don't bring it until you ask for it." Their whole idea is you can just savor your visit, and you're not rushed out. And in our restaurants, it's like, "Are you done yet? Can I take your plate?" So, can you come up here and bring that cute baby, and all the rest of you come by.